Let's get right into it. Number 10. The humble hot dog. The hot dog. The quintessential American street food. The star of backyard BBQs. The culinary backbone of every baseball game. You probably picture sunny afternoons, perhaps a bit of mustard, a sprinkle of relish, and zero existential dread. But brace yourselves, because the humble hot dog has a past darker and more mysterious than its questionable meat content. Before it was grilling on your patio, the hot dog was something very much like it was getting its start in 19th century German butcher shops. We're talking about a time when refrigeration was a luxury, and food preservation was more of an art form practiced by people who really didn't want to get dysentery. These early Frankfurters or Dachshund sausages were designed not for leisure, but for economic necessity. Every scrap, every sinew, every unattractive bit of meat was ground up, spiced, and crammed into casings. It was about making the absolute most out of what you had, turning the less desirable parts into something palatable, and more importantly, something that wouldn't spoil immediately. So, the next time you bite into that tube of mystery meat, remember, you're not just enjoying a snack, you're participating in a centuries-old tradition of making the unappetizing, well, at least look appetizing. It's basically the culinary equivalent of turning your old socks into a stylish new hat. Number 9. Mac and cheese's military roots. You're probably thinking of gooey, cheesy goodness, maybe a childhood memory of a bright orange box, or perhaps a fancy artisanal version with truffle oil. Macaroni and cheese, the ultimate comfort food for a reason. Right? It's warm, it's creamy, it's like a hug from the inside. But what if I told you this beloved dish owes its widespread popularity, not to a loving grandmother, but to a rather pragmatic founding father and a military ration? We can trace the widespread love of mac and cheese, in America at least, directly back to Thomas Jefferson. Yes, that Thomas Jefferson, the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence, was apparently also a massive foodie. He encountered macaroni, which was practically exotic in America at the time, and cheese in France, fell in love, and brought a pasta machine and Parmesan cheese back with him. But it was during World War II that mac and cheese truly cemented its place in American hearts and stomachs. Kraft Dinner, as it was known, became a wildly popular, cheap, and shelf-stable meal that helped stretch rations and feed families during lean times. It was advertised as a way to stretch your meat points, a caloric lifesaver for families on a budget. So, your favorite cheesy indulgence isn't just a simple dish, it's a veteran of wartime austerity. A humble hero born from necessity, ready to conquer your hunger with the efficiency of a well-oiled military operation. Number 8. The not-so-sweet story of sugar. You drizzle it on your pancakes, stir it into your coffee, and let's be honest, probably consume far more of it than any medical professional would recommend. Sugar, in its pure, crystalline form, is the undisputed king of comfort, the universal signal for treat yourself. But the journey of sugar from a relatively obscure plant to a global commodity, and then to the cornerstone of almost every comfort food imaginable, is steeped in a history far less sweet than its taste. For centuries, sugar was a luxury, a spice, a medicine, reserved for the wealthy elite. It was laborious to produce, requiring specific climates and intensive manual labor. This changed, dramatically and tragically, with the rise of colonial empires and the transatlantic slave trade. The insatiable demand for sugar in Europe fueled the brutal expansion of sugarcane plantations in the Caribbean and the Americas, relying entirely on the forced labor of enslaved people. Fortunes were built on the backs of unimaginable suffering, all to satisfy a rapidly growing sweet tooth across continents. So, the next time you mindlessly tear open a packet of sugar or bite into a sugary treat, just remember that every grain of sweetness holds a dark, bitter legacy. It's not just a sweetener, it's a monument to one of history's most horrific chapters, proving that sometimes the things that bring us the most immediate pleasure have the most disturbing origins. Number 7. Chicken soup's sickly past. Feeling under the weather, got a sniffle, a cough, or just a general case of the meh. Chances are, someone, somewhere, will suggest a warm bowl of chicken soup. It's the ultimate edible hug, the undisputed champion of sick day remedies, a culinary placebo that actually seems to work. But before it was the comforting cure all we know and love, chicken soup was, well, just soup. And its journey to becoming the undisputed king of medicinal broths is less about scientific discovery and more about ancient medical theories and a whole lot of common sense. For millennia, various cultures used simple broths made from boiled animals as restorative tonics. Think of ancient Egypt, Greece, and China, where similar concoctions were prescribed for ailments ranging from indigestion to general weakness. The idea was often rooted in the belief that or that the essence of a strong, healthy animal could transfer its vigor to the ailing. The scientific basis for why it actually helps thinning mucus, hydration, anti-inflammatory properties from vegetables came much, much later. So, while your grandma's chicken noodle might make you feel better, its heritage isn't in a sterile lab, it's in the ancient, often unscientific, pursuit of comfort and healing from whatever was available. It's basically the original home remedy, proving that sometimes a warm, salty liquid is all you need, even if no one really knew why for thousands of years. Number 6, coffee. From goat herders to global juggernaut. You probably can't imagine starting your day without it. That first glorious sip, the jolt of caffeine, the comforting ritual. Coffee is less a beverage and more a vital organ for many of us. It's the engine of modern productivity, the social lubricant of choice, and the undisputed monarch of morning comfort. But before it was meticulously roasted, ground, and brewed into your artisanal latte, coffee had far more humble and, frankly, bizarre beginnings. Legend has it, and legends are basically history's fan fiction, that coffee was first discovered by an Ethiopian goat herder named Kaldi. He noticed his goats became incredibly energetic and wouldn't sleep after nibbling on the bright red berries of a particular bush. Naturally, being a curious individual, Kaldi tried them himself and experienced the same invigorating effect. He then shared his discovery with a local monastery, where the monks initially disapproved, throwing the berries into a fire. But the enticing aroma of the roasting beans changed their minds, leading them to brew a drink that helped them stay awake during long night prayers. So, the next time you're nursing that extra large cup of joe, remember its wild, untamed origins. You're not just sipping a beverage, you're partaking in a global phenomenon that started with some very caffeinated goats and a few sleep-deprived monks. It's basically the ultimate happy accident beverage, proving that sometimes even goats can discover life-changing stimulants. Number 5, the ancient, accidental dough of bread. Bread, simple, fundamental, arguably the most ancient comfort food there is. From a humble slice of toast to a majestic sourdough loaf, it's the carb-loaded backbone of countless cuisines and cultures. You probably think of bakers, ovens, and maybe the comforting smell of yeast. But before professional bakers were meticulously proofing their brioche, bread was likely an accidental discovery, born from a rather primitive and potentially soggy mistake. Imagine early humans millennia ago, trying to make some kind of gruel from wild grains and water. They leave it out, perhaps in a warm, damp environment, and voila, natural yeast from the air. Uninvited and utterly unwelcome by modern hygienic standards. Get to work. The mixture ferments, bubbles, and instead of just a flat, dense paste, they end up with something that's lighter, cheerier, and surprisingly more palatable when cooked over an open fire or on a hot stone. This spontaneous fermentation, this happy accident of microbial activity, was the birth of leavened bread. It wasn't a stroke of culinary genius, it was nature doing its thing, and hungry humans being observant and probably desperate. So, every time you bite into a fluffy piece of bread, remember that you're enjoying the accidental triumph of airborne fungus and ancient ingenuity. It's basically fermented grain sludge, elevated to an art form, all thanks to some intrepid microbes and our ancestors' willingness to eat anything that didn't immediately kill them. Number 4, ice cream's royal and unsanitary. Beginnings. When you think of ice cream, you probably picture sunshine, sprinkles, and maybe a brain freeze. It's the ultimate treat. A creamy, sweet indulgence that screams happiness. But the path to your perfectly churned pint was a bumpy one, paved with exotic ingredients, royal obsession, and frankly, a whole lot of unhygienic practices. Long before the invention of modern refrigeration, creating frozen desserts was a monumental undertaking, requiring vast amounts of ice and snow hauled down from mountains or harvested from frozen lakes. This was a luxury only the incredibly wealthy could afford. Think ancient China, where emperors enjoyed milk and rice concoctions frozen with packed snow. Or the Roman Empire, where Nero famously had runners fetch snow and ice to chill his fruit and honey. Fast forward to Renaissance Italy and France, where creams were being frozen, often by placing containers of the mixture in buckets of ice and salt. This process, while effective, was far from sanitary. Imagine dirty snow, unwashed hands, and ingredients that might have seen better days. all combined for a fleeting moment of cold, sweet pleasure. It was a status symbol, a spectacle, a testament to immense wealth and power. So, the next time you scoop into that perfectly smooth vanilla, remember you're enjoying the refined and significantly cleaner descendant of a dessert once reserved for royalty, made possible by literal mountains of ice and a general disregard for modern food safety. It's basically frozen, sweetened, formerly questionable dairy, now acceptable for public consumption. Number 3. The unlikely romance of chocolate. Chocolate. Just the word conjures images of bliss, indulgence, and perhaps a slight addiction. It's the go-to for celebrations, commiserations, and everything in between. But before it was a delectable bar or a rich hot cocoa, chocolate was a bitter, ceremonial beverage with a history that involves ancient rituals, fierce warriors, and even a bit of human sacrifice. Originating in Mesoamerica, the cacao bean was far more than just food. It was sacred. The Olmec, Maya, and Aztec civilizations revered cacao, using its beans as currency and brewing them into a frothy, often bitter, spicy drink consumed during rituals, ceremonies, and by elite warriors and rulers. This wasn't your grandma's hot chocolate. It was often mixed with chili peppers, cornmeal, and other strong flavors, served cold, and was definitely not about comfort in the modern sense. It was about spiritual connection, status, and endurance. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived, they initially found the bitter drink unpalatable but quickly recognized its value. They introduced it to Europe, where it was eventually sweetened and transformed into the sugary treat we know today. So, the next time you unwrap a chocolate bar, remember you're holding a descendant of a sacred, bitter brew. It's basically a warrior's power drink that got a massive sugar addiction and decided to chill out and become everyone's best friend. Number 2. Pizza's poverty-stricken past. You know, pizza, you love pizza. It's the ultimate communal food, the universally accepted answer to what's for dinner. A glorious circular canvas for all your wildest topping dreams. But before it became the global phenomenon of cheesy, saucy perfection we devour today, pizza was the desperate, utilitarian meal of the poor. Born out of necessity in the bustling, often chaotic, streets of Naples, Italy. Forget gourmet toppings and brick ovens for a moment. We're talking 18th century Naples, a city teeming with impoverished laborers who needed cheap, fast, and filling food. What did they have? Flour, lard, cheese remnants, and whatever vegetables were cheap and available. These flatbreads, often topped with humble ingredients like garlic, salt, and olive oil tomatoes only became popular much later, were sold by street vendors, quickly consumed, and forgotten. It was the original grab-and-go meal for the working class, far from the leisurely, sit-down experience we associate with it now. The idea of pizza as a beloved, widely consumed dish only truly took off when Queen Margherita visited Naples in 1889 and, according to legend, was presented with a pizza resembling the colors of the Italian flag red tomatoes, white mozzarella, green basil. Suddenly, the food of the poor became a royal sensation. So, the next time you're debating whether to add pepperoni or mushrooms, remember you're enjoying a culinary triumph that started as a meager, humble offering to the perpetually hungry. It's basically a flatbread designed for desperate times that somehow became a worldwide party food, proving that even the most humble beginnings can lead to cheesy, saucy global domination. Number 1. The surprisingly dark tale of cookies. Cookies. The embodiment of childhood joy, the perfect dunking companion for milk, the ultimate little disc of comfort that fits perfectly in your hand and disappears even faster into your mouth. You probably picture grandma's baking, Santa Claus, or maybe a cozy evening by the fire, but the seemingly innocent cookie has a past that's a bit more practical and less about warm fuzzies. Before they were delightful treats, cookies were essentially test cakes or small, utilitarian discs of dough baked to check the oven temperature for larger cakes or loaves of bread. Bakers, not wanting to waste a whole batch of a more complex item, would bake these smaller, simpler portions first. If the test cookie came out just right, they knew the oven was ready for the main event. They were less about deliciousness and more about preventing culinary catastrophe. Think of them as the unsung heroes of the baking world, the sacrificial lambs of the oven, existing solely to ensure a perfect larger product. And when they did become a treat, their travel-friendly, non-perishable nature made them ideal provisions for long journeys, predating modern snacks by centuries. So, the next time you bite into a perfect chocolate chip cookie, remember its humble origins as a glorified oven thermometer. It's basically a culinary guinea pig that accidentally became universally adored, proving that sometimes, even mistakes can be incredibly delicious. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.